Hi everybody, welcome to From Zero to 100. This is going to be a special episode. It's an episode I've been looking forward to do it. I have a very special guest today. Today's guest is Gabriela, a serial founder with a deep passion for challenging the status quo. Although her academic background began in psychology, her most formative learning experience took place at the Alternative University, a student-centered environment, where she became a self-directed learner and explored how play can transform the way we learn. She's now the CPO and co-founder at Chambr, her second startup, where she's building an AI-powered game-based simulation that helps sales teams close much more deals. Chambr gives sales reps a safe space to practice their pitches, handle objections, and refine their skills without risking real prospects. I'm really excited for the conversation. So, hi, Gabi.
Hey, Irina.
Very excited to have you here. Thank you for coming over. I wanted people to hear your story and also hear about what you guys are doing at Chambr. And if it's okay with you, I want to get started in your background. You started in psychology, but most of your formative learning came from the Alternative University. So I wanted to ask, what did that environment give you that traditional education didn't?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here as well. Yeah, the Alternative University was the most transformative learning experience I've ever had. And that was because, as you said, it was student-centered, it was student-run, and the goal was for us students to become self-directed learners. And what that meant was that we would set learning objectives and then deconstruct them into achievable KPIs and test like several learning methods and like be super diligent and almost scientific about, okay, this method really works for me for this goal. I'm going to emphasize more on it and so on. And at the end of the experience, you would apply for a badge, which was like, it was broken down in like skills and micro skills that you needed to show in order for you to show that you've achieved that goal, right? So it was unlike any other experience I've ever had in school before. And also it was very value driven. And I don't mean that, in the corporate way of, hey, let's display some values on the website that people are not even aware of. Like each and every learning experience all throughout the year was centered around one of the values. And the values were playing, learning, kindness, freedom, collaborating, and daring. And my co-founder Alex and I actually really fell in love with playing and learning. And that's how we co-founded our first startup. It was called PlayLearn, and it was a startup that gamified corporate training. So that experience really shaped our entire startup founder future.
That's quite interesting because I see a lot of overlap with the startup thinking mindset, and I think that helped you in your journey. And I wanted to follow up on that. And you describe yourself as somebody who challenges the status quo. And what was the moment that you realized, I don't want to play by the standard rules?
Yeah, I mean, there were many moments. The first trigger I got in high school, it was a huge frustration with my math teacher. I was terrified by him because he was very, he wouldn't allow any mistakes. And you're familiar with the grading system in Romania. You can get a max 10, like from 1 to 10. And
Yeah.
basically, once he asked me one question, I did not answer correctly, and he gave me a 3 out of 10 instantly. And even if I did a mistake and rectified it immediately, he would still tell me, you have no idea how to solve this. So that was a trigger of frustration and of this is not how learning should be done, but I didn't have the resources or the tools to do anything about it. And the resources and the tools came later on in the Alternative University. And that's where I realized that the problem was not just me in high school. It was really broad, both in school and in corporations. You tick a box, and if you gave the correct answer, the trainer or the mentor or whoever assumes greater knowledge than you says, okay, you know this. But does that mean in practice you are able to, pull the trigger on that skill and actually do it? Oftentimes it does not. Knowing something is different from doing something. And that gap between knowledge, insights, and behavioral change was something that we became super passionate about solving.
I think it's an education. It's specific for a certain area of Europe, but there are multiple ways to solve a problem, and I relate a lot to this. I went to a technical school and started the engineering, and we found solutions very out of the box. Usually it would get graded the full amount because it was very different from the existing curriculum. And that was very frustrating to me as well. So I relate a lot to it. But you've built multiple things before Chambr, and I would like to know what about you makes you a serial founder instead of one and done founder.
So there are probably multiple layers to that. First of all, it's hard for me to be a good employee. I tried. I was an employee for 2 years, and I had this constant urge to do things differently, and I had little to no freedom to do them how I envisioned them to be. And basically, I realized, hey, I need to run my own thing for sure. And then I became really passionate about this problem of, cracking the nut of the outdated learning that has been done more or less the same way for centuries. And basically, with our previous company, we were solving the same problem, but for a different market. And the problem we're solving hasn't changed, just the market has. And like from, I don't know, a more service-based company, we became a tech startup and so on. But like, we've been solving the same problem for 10 years. And I'm sure that if and when we're, I don't know, IPOing Chambr, I'm going to probably start another thing in the same space or, very, very related to it. So, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, the world is changing, so the tools that we're currently using don't probably serve us. I saw this quote, I think, recently. Don't listen to your parents. The parents raised you for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And I wonder how this applies in Chambr, but I want to get started talking about your company. Mm-hmm. And for people who are hearing for the first time about Chambr, how would you describe what you do?
So Chambr helps sales teams close more deals through AI simulations. We started with AI sales roleplay, meaning reps get to practice with AI customer personas and refine their pitch and make all those mistakes that have no consequences in real life with AI bots. And this way they don't waste any company prospects, and when they meet with the real prospects, they're super up and running and the best they can be.
So would you say basically it's a tool for you to do the hard prep before you actually get to the war part?
Yeah, I mean, it works in multiple ways, right? So what I said applies more for the onboarding use case, but like it's like going to the gym. Like we have customers who just do warm-up calls just to, get that talk track out early on during the day so that they're very, ready for the real talks. It's, yeah, exactly like going to the gym. You're training those muscles, you're like getting super granular about the micro skills you need to keep in good shape in order for you to perform.
That sounds cool. And I wanted to ask you, because you said about values and one thing that you guys became very passionate about. What is one core belief behind Chambr? And like, if you could tattoo one sentence about learning on the world's forehead, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd say elevate learning through play. And I'm going to break that down, what it means. We believe that sales training and skills growth needs to be both top down and bottoms up, because in order for it to be effective and impactful. Because whenever a learning process is only driven by the manager, hey, my manager told me to do this role play, whatever, it doesn't stick. It's just something you do to tick a box. It's not something you do out of your inner motivation and drive to become a better human / sales rep / whatever else. So whenever it's also bottoms up, it's your own inner driver and motivator that pumps you up to want to become better. And that's the real engagement you as a SaaS company want to drive, like where your users come to learn because they love to, not because they have to and because the manager told them to.
I love that. I love that perspective on the world. I actually played with your product and it was very fun. And I wanted to underline the word play because I saw it as a play. Sales is very human. So how did you design the product so it doesn't kill the human part of the process?
I mean, there are multiple layers there. First of all, voice AI is a vertical that grows and becomes better and better by the day. So like having realistic voices and like realistic conversations is a crucial part of it. But then, of course, there's a lot of work underneath of creating the call types to be super specific to how they happen in reality, right? Because a cold call is very different from the dynamics of a discovery call and so on. And then like the buyer also matters, like a SaaS leader in sales will talk differently from a shop owner in retail, right? So there are multiple layers there that you have to be aware of and like account for in a sales conversation.
So would you say it's basically a hyper personalized playing or learning experience to each niche? So that makes it human, and keeps the
Yeah,
human
for
part.
sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Building something game based in a business environment can sometimes be polarizing because, after all, we're building businesses, not games, even though a game can be a business. What resistance did you face, and how did you communicate that value to your end user?
So we learned a lot from our previous company, PlayLearn. And in Chamber, we were very diligent about not making things too complicated too fast. If you
Okay.
ask our users today, they're not really aware there are any, shiny game elements there. They are very subtle. They are very nuanced, and we are adding one engagement mechanism at a time, testing it, refining it, and like making sure it serves the ultimate goal of engagement and performance. So we're gonna be very much diligent about adding them one at a time. And probably if you look at Chamber in 2 years, it will seem more like a game, but like as of now, here and today, we're being very diligent about what we add and when and how.
I love to see that, and also I'm very curious how it will transform. And I say this as a person who is building product and tries to bring the gaming experience, because I worked into gaming prior to this, so I do understand the gamification concept. I think it's very much underused in every product to make it more fun. After all, we spend a bunch of our lives working, might as well make it a bit more fun and enjoyable. And I wanted to ask, on top of that, what is one thing that you guys seen surprising from your clients? Like, you delivered these tailored experiences for them to perform better. What is one surprising thing you learned from your clients?
There was a lot of customization that happened after we got involved with different companies, and like to the point I was making earlier, a buyer that works in sales SaaS is going to talk very differently from a buyer that's a shop owner in a retail store. And
True.
we often had to go back and like, okay, have the bot talk in simpler words, less corporate words, shorter phrases, like all those kinds of tweaks that I wouldn't have imagined being so important before going into this, but like they're crucial to making the experience relevant. Because like if you don't have an accurate AI bot, then you as a seller will not believe the experience you're having as being truthful or real, so you will not engage, so you will drop off. So you have to be very diligent about how accurate and relevant each and every step of the journey is.
Definitely. And do you think that AI has made this possible for this type of problem you're trying to solve now? Or in the past, when you guys were a service business, that wouldn't have been attainable if it weren't for AI?
For sure. I mean, I'm super hyped and I think it's world changing. First of all, you have a safe environment, right? So you are safe from losing prospects, you are safe from, I don't know, getting intimidated by your manager or like by your peers or anything that happens in an environment with an AI bot is safe. Like you cannot miss or like those mistakes do not have real life consequences. So that's super crucial because if you're safe, then you're like learning happens faster. And then you can really scale and offer very customized, very personalized experiences that are very like aligned to those people's own rhythms and schedules and everything. And even more so, like you can get really granular. You can like break down the skills and micro skills and show up just in time. Like that's I think is very important. Like showing up just in time when they need you in the exact format that is the most digestible for them and the most useful for them at that moment in time. So I don't know. Yeah, a lot has become possible. It's insane. I love building in this era.
Yeah, I want to say that for some people can be very scary, but I think right now it's one of the most exciting times to start a company because
For sure.
you can solve so much, so much to do so many things. I wanted to go back a bit about your role and discuss with you a bit about product and go-to-market strategies. I think we kind of dabbled into like oh, how do you make sure you don't lose your human contact? But what is something about being a product leader that nobody warned you about?
I guess I didn't anticipate the decision tree behind the product roadmap being so complicated and complex. And like, I sometimes feel like I'm changing, the next thing we're working on like 3 times a day before I deliver, a message to my team. And it's just insane. Like, listening to all that customer feedback and input, like prioritizing what gets, in the immediate roadmap and what that stays to like what we're building a little later. And like, I don't know, it's just a very, very complex process that gives me a lot of satisfaction because I love solving complex puzzles. It's probably one of another reason why I'm a serial founder. I have this itch, but at the same time, like, I would have never imagined it being so complex.
I mean, I wanted to go back on that question. If you're comfortable sharing, you guys switched from a service business to a tech business. How do you feel you've changed? And for somebody who's looking to make that change, I talk to people every day. Like, what were the steps of your learning process? What did that look like? How did you learn? Can you walk us a bit through it?
Sure. So we were creating physical games for enterprises,
Wow.
right? So that meant creating a lot of prototypes, pen and paper, like game cards and stuff, and going to people and having them test it and like iterate and repeat. And in a way, even though that process was pen and paper, it was very much like, building a product because you would test, iterate, and you'd be in that loop. So there were many similarities there. But like once we became a tech company, I learned Figma, I learned Illustrator, I learned Photoshop, I learned now Lovable. I'm coding in Lovable. So like tools were very crucial to my learning journey, and like being able to create prototypes very fast. Like now in Lovable, I can just go to a customer meeting and like tweak features in that call with them with my share screen, which is insane. Like I think this is common, like for both service and tech businesses. Like get something out as fast as possible because all that feedback you're gonna get is gonna change it anyway. So you're gonna have a completely different product. But I think the tech world drives you to do that much faster. And yeah, it's for sure a personal learning journey as well of just adapting to a new rhythm and a new everything.
Yeah. I wanted to double down on that and say, like, a lot of people that ask me, like, how do I get started? It's for you to get started, but try also the new tools and build your own tech stack. Like you said, Lovable. The fact that you do that makes you a person who has great ideas and knows how to design products. And it reminds me a bit about Brian Chesky because I know we both talked about him, that we really like him. And the fact that he's a designer at his core, and he put that into a product that basically changed the experience. So hats off to that. I wanted to mention also that you did not mention, but Chambr is a VC-backed company. Like they are backed by Techstars, and so you guys are in the next stage of your growth. But prior to this, you've built both businesses in Europe and now in the States. And what is a major cultural difference you have identified in the way you think about product development? What about, and next one is like, what about go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like building product in the United States kind of feels like playing in Champions League in the sense that buyers are very willing to adopt very fast. They adopt technology very fast, but then they also have very high standards and expectations. So, and you also have like fierce competition, which back in Europe we didn't have. And I think that has shaped a lot, like our velocity, our speed, the way we build, the way we envision our product roadmap and everything. Because like in Europe, buyers would be less, like they would adopt technology harder. And then, so you'd be in a process of like, you would spend more time in the sales process and trying to like follow up, and they would say, yeah, but it's not a priority yet, but let's keep in touch. Like they wouldn't tell you a firm no, they would just keep you in maybe land more. And so that didn't push you to, speed things up and I don't know. I think that was a major one. Like I feel like the rhythm, the speed are insane, but I love it. I think having competition and having buyers with high expectations ultimately is what, makes a product really good.
Yeah, I think to your point, what we felt as well is like you need to do more anticipation on what the client wants and like try to think ahead. And that has been very helpful in terms of like the product. When you get a feature from the dev team, we looked at it and we're like, okay, it looks great, but I anticipate like the person I'm gonna present this to would also want to see this. Or can I showcase or promise this that it will happen in the future? And how do you feel like the go-to-market strategy has changed for you? Like you said, in Europe, you would spend more time in the sales cycle, which I totally agree with.
I feel like we had to be much more granular and specific about our ICP.
Yeah,
Like
I agree with that.
in Romania, I mean, you have a lot of companies outsourcing processes to like the Romanian entities, and you don't have as many, I don't know, SaaS businesses like that you interact with. So we had to be much more granular about our ICP. And all right, so we're selling to this type of customer. Who are they selling to as well? Like, how do we help them? How do we get very specific about, their own process in order for us to like really show value? And yeah, I feel like because it's such a wide market with so many complexities and ramifications, you have to be very specific and find your niche and iterate a lot until you find that ICP.
I want to double down on the ICP part and say that when we say it's a huge market in US, and I say that because we have a lot of European companies also listening and that want to branch out to US, you got to be hyper specific, else your cost of acquisition is going to go up. And speaking from my own expertise of going after huge enterprise companies, the sales cycle takes a lot. You need to map out like the decision-making process of them, that it's not ready available to find on the internet unless you've sold into that industry prior to this. But most likely you haven't if you come from Europe to the States, because it looks a bit different. But going very granular, I think it helps you. The faster you can do it, the faster you can get to the market. That's a thing that we noticed as well. But you said the ICP. How did you find your wedge into the market? Like, I know you guys went for Techstars. Was it obvious from the beginning, or did you have to stumble towards it, even though you had prior experience to, solving this problem?
It wasn't obvious, and I am not still 100% confident that, hey, we nailed it, this is it. Like, we're still running experiments, and I feel like velocity is really important. And we've had cases where we tested, markets that were less serviced by tech, for example. We've tried real estate, and like we ran a few experiments and we realized very fast, hey, this is not for us right now. We move forward. And yeah, I believe that you have to have some assumptions, and they have to be broken down into very specific behaviors that you want to observe in your experiments in order for you to say, hey, yeah, this is worth doubling down on. But also you need to like be aware that you have limited resources, a small team, and you need to, move fast. So I'm not 100% sure we found it, but like I'm more confident now than I was 6 months ago that we're closer to that answer, and that we're seeing like our conversion rates going from proof of concept pilot to paid going up. So that's, an indicator, hey, we're closer here. So, you have to define your metrics of success and then see what kind of customer tends to repeat in your sequence.
I want to double down on that. What do you think is one of the best questions that helps you and Alex, your co-founder, make these decisions? I know you get better with time, sure. You learn how to say better no's, but what is the question that you guys ask yourselves when you run these type of things?
I mean, there are multiple questions, right? Because you look for, I don't know, how fast you close a deal, how hair on fire the problem is, how much engagement you have from the end user once they're in. Like, there are multiple things we have to answer, and like we're trying to break them down into like measurable success criteria. And I mean, sometimes it's also a gut thing, right? But like, you have to base that gut also on some numbers.
Data never lies. At
Exactly.
the end of the day. Data never lies.
Sure.
So basically make a list of things that you would consider success and then stick to them for a limited time. How much time do you guys generally dedicate to an experiment? Like, what is the time frame looking like?
So like, I'd say if we're testing a new market, we might allow 2 to 3 months to like draw the first conclusions after the data we gather. If we're like doing smaller experiments, like, I don't know, experimenting with a different type of messaging, but for the same target, that's going to be much faster. Like, try this messaging for 1 or 2 weeks, then the next one for the next 1 or 2 weeks, and see like, okay, how does the data compare? What are we sticking with?
I wanted to say, like, this sounds ideal in theory because we went through that as well. But what do you do when things don't play out the way you expect them to? What do you guys do then? And of course, as much as you're willing to share, but always curious to learn about other people's thoughts on it.
Yeah, we've actually kind of devised a strategy of when things don't go as planned, go for the thing that works. You've certainly, I don't know, achieved a sequence of actions that has proven successful for your company before.
100%.
For example, at some point for us, it was we knew exactly how to outreach to angel investors. Like, it was such a refined process. Whenever things don't go as planned, just go revert to that process that you're very confident that you know how to run.
That's a very solid advice, and I recommend it to everybody. It's a good pick-me-up. I wanted to go a bit back to AI because you said you were excited about it. Where does AI add to learning, and where can it accidentally get in the way?
We've always positioned Chambr as a platform that is here to train sales reps, not replace them. That's our stance. And I think AI can get in the way if you want it to totally replace human interaction. But I mean, our position is, hey, let's use AI because we touched on this before, right? It's hyper personalized. It can be just in time, right when you need it. It can scale. So like a manager can save many hours per week per sales rep by outsourcing their coaching and training to AI without replacing it, right? So but you have so many touch points with AI before you meet with your manager that when you do meet, that meeting is even more meaningful because you've tried things, right? You've iterated, you've practiced. So I believe there's a huge potential in using AI to augment, human interactions and what humans already do very well.
Game-based learning relies heavily on emotional engagement, from what I've seen also in the market. How do you maintain the play when the system is also optimized for performance? How do you guys do it in your case?
You kind of have a branching of, like a decision tree, right? So performance is important, like outcomes are important. And whenever you design a system of any way, you need to like add those mechanisms in place that support your goal, right? So I was saying earlier, we're adding engagement mechanisms or game-based mechanisms that support our goal of making sales reps perform better, right? And so, it's a lot of having a clear goal and aligning that goal with all the little actions that you do afterwards.
I wanted to mention that I played with one of your personas, and it was fun for me that I had like a metric at the end of the sales call, and they're like, oh, you did not listen enough. You weren't aggressive enough, or were too aggressive, depending on the type of scenario. And it was interesting because it told me more about how I am as a person and how I operate day to day. And where could I improve? So that for me was fun, for instance. And I wanted to say, because you guys are designing simulations, how do you choose what behaviors or scenarios AI should actually model? I mean, not everything a salesperson does is teachable, right?
For sure, and it shouldn't be like, but imagine like if you have a solid base as a sales rep and you know the right messaging that your company wants you to tell to your prospects, and like you have a solid base of your product and like everything is well refined, and you add charisma or whatever is not teachable on top of that, like that makes you an amazing sales rep. So the purpose is not for us to like go for the things that are not teachable, but to like emphasize everything that's teachable and that requires practice in order to master, right? So, and like sorry, I think your question was
how do you basically how do you choose behaviors or scenarios for AI?
For sure there are some standardized aspects, right? Like depending on the call type, on the if it's a B2B or a B2C, but then also it's a lot reinforced by our customers because they have data about their own prospects and buyers, their vocabulary, how they behave, so that's coming a lot from them.
Yeah, I think you guys had a success story. I remember reading about it with somebody who was doing I'm not sure if immigration or something like that, and you guys helped with the closing, right? The closing rate. What did that look like?
Yeah, we helped with them expanding pipeline by 66% quarter over quarter and 81% year over year, because basically once their reps like got those quality at bats, they were like advancing more during their cold calls.
That's awesome.
Or warm calls, like they were going to later stages and they were creating more pipeline.
Interesting.
Therefore, yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think that had because you can give the person the right tools or the right training, like a soup, or what do you think it changed by using your product in their case?
I mean, we've heard this from other customers as well, like, hey, I never got to the point of practicing some parts of the calls with customers because they would hang up on me so fast, And I would have never thought of this, right? But it's true. Like, if you don't get to practice the later stages because they, like close in the first minute, then like you're not really equipped to handle that when it happens, right? And they became just much more confident, and like they had all those like safe failures with the bots, and when they went out there they were just much more confident to handle
I was looking
any stage of the call.
What is your deadline for Chambr right now?
Yeah, burn through AI bots, not real prospects.
Well, what about you say boost your confidence for closing? It sounds to me like you guys boost the confidence for their sales team, which is incredible. And that's a tool you really want, because that's how you get a performing team when they are at their best. I'm going to ask another question, and then we're going to do some rapid fire ones. Let's say you had unlimited capacity with AI and Chambr can do anything. What would Chambr do or be, or how we would use Chambr every day in our daily lives?
Have you seen Inside Out?
No, it's on my list, but I think some of them have seen it. So
I mean, I just love that idea of having little characters inside your head that are operating the control room, and like they are hyper focused on a specific emotion or function, and like ideally I would love for Chambr to have all these AI characters that are hyper specialized on a specific micro skill and that show up just in time for you when you need them, and that basically are like really really there for you in a way that's hyper personalized. And I don't know, it's something that I love imagining. I'm not sure if we're gonna get to that point, but like thinking about it actually helps me shape the roadmap sometimes.
I love that. I would love to have somebody like I realize I need to get better at, I don't know, speaking in public. Can I have a criteria that helps me speak in public better? That would be great. And now I'm going to go to a couple of rapid fire questions. What is a book or idea that changed the way you think?
Quiet by Susan Cain. She basically normalized a lot of my experience as a shy introvert, because she talks a lot about how the world is built for extroverts. and it changed a bit the focus from, hey, there's something wrong with me, I have to change something, work on something, whatever, perpetually develop myself to fit in, to, hey, I can also ask the environment to tweak some things, or like choose the contexts that like, you know, make me feel safe, and that's okay.
It's funny that you say that, because I think what you guys are building in a way makes training more accessible for introverts as well, which makes it more comfortable for you to, you know, fail, because nobody's gonna be in a room and judge you how you behave or act.
For sure, I benefit the most from what we're building, to be honest.
You told me about it, yeah. What is a mistake you're grateful for? And this can apply anytime.
Like answering my math teacher's question incorrectly led me to build a company that tries to solve learning. So really grateful for that.
Hey, so if you're not that great at maths, it's okay. You can be a founder in the future. A founder who inspires you lightly, and why?
You mentioned him already. It's Brian Chesky. I'm a total believer in founder mode, and I love that he basically was opinionated and had a unique, you know, background that shaped a whole industry that wasn't, you know, perfectly related to his background. So I love it.
Basically created a new industry.
Exactly.
A new one.
Exactly.
And what is something you wish more founders admitted publicly?
I don't know. I don't. I respect founders a lot. I am one, and I have a lot of, I don't know, empathy and consideration for each and every person building something. I think that, yeah, like, you know, there's always this tension between sharing the challenges and, you know, like always pitching.
Yep.
There's a tension there that's normal. I don't know, I feel like everyone should share whatever they're comfortable with sharing, and yeah, I mean, we all agree it's a tough journey, and every time I meet with a founder, we relate so much. Like there is a special relationship you have when talking to a founder versus a friend who's not going through this journey. Like 100%. Even if a friend will empathize with you, they will not have lived that. And that's why, I don't know, I love talking to founders, and I respect founders a lot.
I agree. And also, let's not forget about founder groups. If you don't have one, make one. It's the most valuable thing ever. It's going to help you a lot. It's going to help you on your bad days and on your good days as well.
Sure.
And the last one, please fill in the following sentence. I ask everybody this one. To grow from 0 to 100, you need what?
To run deliberate experiments until you find a repeatable sequence that you can scale until you reach the next plateau, and then you have to iterate again.
And again, and start again. Just follow again and again. This was very fun. So if people listening to this, how can they test drive Chambr? How can they talk to you? What are you guys focusing on right now?
Sure. So they can go to chambr.us. We have our AI bot there, Jerry. He's a tough nut. He's a jerk, sorry. And yeah, he can adapt to anything you're selling him. We like to say from soap to SaaS. So yeah, you can take him for a dry run. He's very popular, actually. People sometimes know us by Jerry and not by Chambr, which is really funny.
That's funny. Yeah. Maybe you can make a Jerry at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to leave all the things that you suggested in the commentary of the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm willing to do this once again and hear how you guys evolved on your vision. And have fun, and let's play with Chambr. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.